Welcome to EV Marketplace. I'm Roscoe, and it's 6:30 on a Wednesday night. We're back after 2 weeks, and we take 2 weeks off. And wow, so much has happened in the world of EVs in a couple of weeks. I can't believe it. Yes. Apologies to everyone for last week, a few technical issues, but yeah, we think we've got those sorted out now. So we're back into it, and so much has happened. I just cannot believe it. But off the top, we're congratulating TOCA, the Tesla Owners Club, for their 10th birthday. Can you believe that Tesla came to Australia? Well, back in 2015, the Model S was launched in 2012 in the US, but only 10 years ago, the TOCA Owners Club formed to celebrate the joy of owning a Tesla, way back when you could buy a Roadster and a Tesla Model S. So we've got Les Posen on tonight, Vice President of the Tesla Owners Club. He's going to take us right back to the beginning, right back to where it all started, his current fleet, what he's owned, what he enjoys, and some of the events that Tesla TOCA owners enjoy and partake in. But a big congratulations to the Tesla Owners Club for their 10th birthday, celebrated right around the country over the weekend. It was on Sunday last week. We had a look at the special at our EV Sunday night cruising. We looked at a few Teslas that night and tried to find a few deals, but that was the day. Congratulations. But, well, so much more has happened in the last week. So we've got breaking news, we've got emails, and we've got Les joining us after the break to talk about Tesla. No doubt he'll have a few things to say about what's going on at the moment as an avid follower of Tesla and the EV industry as well. But of course, let's get straight into it, because this is an EV show about used EV deals, data, and discovery. I'm Roscoe, and if you're watching live, thanks for joining us. If you're watching on catch up a bit later on Facebook or YouTube, thanks for joining us as well. Mrs. Amazing is in the house already, and well, let's get the show kicked off, because it has been a big week. And starting off with some news that is probably not quite so good, and I want to get this out of the way pretty quickly. Can't ignore it, unfortunately, but this release came out yesterday about some news that happened last week in relation to XPeng. True EV, the importers, distributors here in Australia, placed into external administration, and there's a bit more detail out there now, and I'm happy to bring it up, but happy for you to go out and do your own research on this one, because what's it got to do with used EVs? Well, like everything, the flow-on effects are where we're worried, what we're concerned about, and what we're interested in the most. The guys that own the cars, that are looking for parts, looking for repairs, looking to sell the car to maintain the value. Brilliant car. They came out with a flourish. I think we first saw them at the Sydney EV show, probably 18 months ago. Maybe they were before that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Then we saw them at Everything Electric. They've just about done every show. They've been supporters of just about everything. You couldn't ask for more. They're fantastic facilities, fantastic dealerships. Brilliant car. And this is just really bad news, and hopefully they're going to rescue something. Hopefully they sort this out. We hope that used EV owners of XPeng continue to enjoy the experience. Hope they are getting somehow the support and service they need. We won't dwell on it, but yeah, I think they have got 600 odd cars around warehouses still waiting to be sold. There's cars still for sale. The XPeng name's there. There's all sorts of other bits and pieces going on, but look, onwards and upwards from here, I hope, for XPeng. But if you've got any stories, let me know. I know there's some tough stories I've seen on Facebook, so we're not discounting that. But yeah, let's get it out there, keep it going, talk about it, and just follow this one a bit more closely, because, well, there was some more great news. Again, now starting on the upward path of much better news for EVs in particular. There's been a bit of hint, and we did a bit of work in the last couple of weeks about FBT, the FBT exemption for used EVs and new EVs that are leased on a novated lease. So that piqued our interest, because not many people knew that you could novate lease a used EV as long as it was purchased after the required time and met their requirements, if your circumstances dictated. No financial advice. But not many, well, we realized that after we'd done a bit of work, if you looked a bit more closely, the government was under review. The whole policy was under review, and the government was looking at potentially changing this. Now, nothing's coming out, but we spoke to Tim from Whipsmart a couple of weeks ago now, and yeah, he had a strong feeling that the government were reviewing it and they might have on a timetable, but they might have brought some sort of result or revision forward as part of the budget. So still watching that space. This is on a different track because, well, other rumors today out from circles about some sort of national user road tax as well. But a couple of bumps in the road. This one, hopefully, a positive because they've put out a statement. Again, they didn't wait for the budget here. They put out a statement straight away that as part of this Australian exemption from the European Union Free Trade Agreement, they've dropped the 5% tariff on cars from Europe. So that includes EVs, that includes all cars. And I probably bet you didn't even know we had a 5% tariff on cars from Europe. There's been no tariff on Japan and a couple of other Asian countries at all. So European sourced cars have had a 5% disadvantage anyway. That's going to be dropped. Also, they have increased the limit, the ceiling to the luxury car tax finally. Now, I don't know the details of ICE cars because I don't really care. But for energy, the statement here says here, for zero emission vehicles, the ceiling has been increased from $90,000 to $120,000. So once again, that has a huge impact on new EVs. You might be able to now get your BMW iX3 for closer to 100,000 instead of 109, but we'll have to wait and see what BMW do with these prices. We're obviously concerned about the used car prices, and normally if there's anything to change the new car market, there's an immediately flow-on effect for the used car market. So we're expecting this to flow through to some of the prices of European cars now. They've already taken a bit of a hit in depreciation and have got a bit of a reputation on the used EV market as already, but might see some further drops here. But again, with the current market the way it is that we're about to get to, the crazy things are happening with prices in the used EV market. So watch this space because at our own used EV market, AmazingEV, and of course this show is brought to you by AmazingEV, demand has been up incredibly. There's no doubt about that. Traffic has been up. As a result, prices are starting to go up. So there's some crazy things happening out there. And this is the sort of news we're starting to get in the marketplace about used EVs. Headlines like this. We've had a battering in the industry for 3 years now. And thanks for joining us, Hal. Good to see you there. It's amazing news. I can't believe it sometimes that this sort of thing happens. And suddenly we go from copying it from every angle to the mainstream media jumping on board. And there's been a sudden jump in EV sales. And this is both new and used. So the first week of this, probably 3 weeks ago, this overseas business, we're not going to say the W word, but first week, everyone stopped buying. Anecdotally, we haven't got hard data yet, but talking to people in retail, anecdotally, everyone stopped buying, wait and see. Nothing was happening. Next week, suddenly the media catch on. Mainstream media that had been bashing EVs for a long time, suddenly they caught on to the fact that this might be a good thing. Higher fuel prices might suddenly mean EV sales and EVs might be attractive. Suddenly we were starting to see all sorts of articles from the ABC, who perhaps had hoped to be on board, about soaring prices of fuel causing a spike in EV demand or interest for a start. But from what we hear in the industry, that's flowed on to new car orders. The Driven, who do a lot of work on the new car space and tapped into everywhere, Tesla lead times on Teslas have suddenly increased. Suddenly you can't buy a brand new Tesla without ordering it for 2 or 3 months as well. So order times are blown out. We've seen on the used market much higher increase. Car sales, who we follow, who might cover 90% of the cars online, private cars for sale, private EVs for sale are down by at least 100%. They dropped in half in the space of one and a half weeks. Prices we've seen have increased. We looked on the Tesla website just to give you an indication, because prices have increased as well. It's almost impossible to buy a Tesla or anything else at the moment used. Here's a couple of examples of Tesla Model 3s from 21 and 22, well over $40,000. So these were cars that were mid-30s 2 weeks ago, a month ago. So it's an incredible effect just at the moment that we're seeing from the NRMA's perspective. Bridie Schmidt, who we talked to as well, has done some great work here. She was off the mark on Monday, reporting that NRMA insurance inquiries for EVs were up 15%, and that was just on Monday. So as the weeks unfolded, we've just seen more and more. We've seen more and more people just getting involved, and I'm going to put more and more people getting involved with looking, and that's translated into sales really, really quickly. In fact, at AmazingEV, we've actually had such a demand and increase in interest that we're starting to get stock now. Things are getting sold quicker than they're going up. Really big change. And long term, I guess this doesn't represent a massive shift in the industry. We'd love to see it, and we're encouraged by the results. But the market's so small, both for new cars and used cars. Remember, only 10,000 new cars are sold a month, 100,000 out of the million. Market's still growing at around 10% on new, and on used it's only 1.5%. We're getting 3,000 or 4,000 cars sold a month on the used market. The sensitivity to these price changes is so great that as soon as there's a sudden demand, prices have increased extraordinarily, and demand's increased, and sales, and all of a sudden there's a lack of stock. That's all it took. Absolutely astounded by this sort of event, that things could change so quickly. But such a fast-moving market, so much has happened in 2 or 3 weeks. And I guess if we'd sat there back 2 or 3 weeks ago and tried to run the scenarios on what was going to happen here, I doubt we would have even predicted this, because it just couldn't imagine that this sort of thing could take place so quickly. Such a big change. Everyone I know who's involved in the market has been so busy. And we thank Les for joining us tonight. Everyone involved in selling and has been run off their feet in the last week. Absolutely incredible. So just great to see. We're encouraged, and of course, let's go over the ditch and have a look at what Gavin's found in New Zealand, because this is a great way to finish and just wonderful to see.
I'm at Drive EV in Taupo. They have sold every single car they have. You see they've got one on the trailer there, ready to go to a customer, being towed by Hulk, the green Tesla. We've got 2 Teslas and a Leaf here. That's all that's left, and those are sold as well. First time in my life I've seen that car yard empty. All the EVs have been sold. There goes the very last one right now. Off to a customer, man. And that's it. And look at that Ford dealership there, man. It is literally bursting with inventory of combustion vehicles. That's empty. Like, really empty. And they've sold every car they have.
Just love Gavin's work. Most of you probably follow Gavin. Just extraordinary. And he's building an Allegro EV, which follow that one as well, which, yeah, again, amazing story, amazing guy in New Zealand. And just love that. And there's an EV dealership, pure EV dealership in Taupo in New Zealand, and it's empty. I mean, that just typifies the New Zealand market for you as well. But similar things are happening here. Great to see, but yeah, hopefully we'll get it leveled out now, because we don't want to see too many price rises putting people off. We still want people to be able to enter the market, and we're still getting strong inquiries. So again, if we can help anyone out there on AmazingEV, we're still happy to offer you a free listing. Use the coupon I'll put them below, AmazingEV. Doesn't matter if prices are going up, demand's going up. We're still happy to help people. We're still building the market. We still want to help you. Take a look at what we've got for offer. There's still a couple of Teslas there. Again, something about blue and AmazingEV. We don't chase the blue ones, but there's a lot of blue cars out there, and it's amazing. Have a look at some of the Teslas we've got out there, because they represent great value still at the moment. I'm not sure if some of these guys have put their prices up or not, but a lot of blue Teslas at the moment. Hurry, because yeah, we're not trying to create some FOMO, but if you've got some interest, people are putting prices up around the place, and I'd say anecdotally they're up about 10% within a week, which is an extraordinary thing. I can't wait to see the sales figures from the AutoGrab and the AADA next month. I wish we could get them now. I can see that most of this data and opinion we're giving you is anecdotal from what we're seeing and talking to people, following the websites, following the marketplaces. And this has all happened within a week and a half of when this took off. So yeah, it took main media to get behind it, but we thank them. A lot of this, we've put up with 3 years of stories more of how negative all the problems with these cars, all of a sudden they're the answer to everything. So for a while, we're not smug, but we will take it, and just glad that they're on board for a change. So happy to move on to my favorite space of the evening as well. And we are back. We are back. We'll run that one more time. We are back with EV Inbox, and happy to get, again, inquiries for anybody who's wanting to look for a new EV. We're happy to try and find something if you can. And we get a lot of inquiries through the inbox if we haven't got the stock at the moment. Happy to help people find an EV, especially now. Got this one from Miriam, not her real name, looking for a long-range Polestar 2, 2024, ideally around 45K. Open to another small, medium SUV options. Just wants the good range by the looks of things. She's in Sydney. Not giving away too much detail, but if you've got anything, let me know. Polestar long range, you'd still like to sell. She's pretty realistic about the price. Well, maybe not anymore. Maybe these are back to 50. I haven't seen any Polestars. I checked the Polestar website for their pre-owned cars. They've got Polestar authorized cars as well, and couldn't find anything. So absolutely amazing. Thanks, Sensei. Good to see you on board. I couldn't find anything there on the Polestar secondhand side of things. So if you've got anything, let me know. And then, of course, you got to still take the good with the bad, and we can still get some funny ones on YouTube. These guys, again, just sometimes there's still some contrary people on YouTube. I can't remember which video this one was for. One of the ones I was commenting about EVs. EVs will only ever work in the big smoke. They are not practical for anyone in regional areas, limited range, all but zero. This was only a couple of weeks ago, not 9 months ago. I don't know where 9 months ago, but this has only just come up recently on one that I noticed. And luckily, someone struck back with, LOL, you don't have a clue. I fell for this rubbish. I've been doing road trips, no problem, and do 400, 600. So someone's still preaching to the unconverted, and then someone's come back and they've answered it. I don't need to respond to these guys. They're answering themselves online. So still a bit of banter going on YouTube, which is really funny. Just some very strange things. Inbox not coming onto the screen. Okay, how about now? No IQ filter on YouTube. All right. How about now? Here we go. Okay. Mrs. Amazing is giving me a bit of a warning about something missing, but I think we're back online now. So thank you. You can hear me. We're working with a new system, but it's pretty good so far. It's like a lot of things. But this sort of thing really makes me happy. Someone called HAL 9000 PC after we had a few problems last week. Speaking of problems, put a post up to say, look, we tried Wednesday, we tried Thursday, just had real problems with the system we're using. So Hal, thank you. No worries, guys. I work with tech every day, and after all those years, I still got trapped. Yeah, so I really appreciate it because, like anything, gave it a try. I gave it probably 48 hours of my time to try and figure it out. No names of what system we were using, but by Friday, I'd sourced another one. Saturday, I'd tested it, and Sunday, we had it up live again. So more fun, more tricks, and getting used to this one. But again, looks like we've got more tools, and it's faster to get this thing going. All good. So sometimes one door shuts and another door opens with a lot more opportunities behind it. So that's my favorite part still, the EV inbox. EV marketplace is there. We're helping people to try and do what we can, but we also love to talk to people who have owned EVs for a long time, been part of clubs, and I'm a very bad member of TOCA and AVA. Unfortunately, I haven't done as much as I can to join in the camaraderie. They've been there for 10 years now, supporting EV owners, Tesla owners from the very start. Way back when everybody was bagging them, no one believed cars were expensive. They were organizing events. They were meeting each other. They were going out driving and just enjoying not putting petrol in their cars. So after the break, we're going to have a cruise around Amazing EV again, have a look at some of the cars that are still there for sale. And after the break, we're going to come back and have a chat to Les Posen, the vice president of TOCA, about his EV journey, the cars that he's owned, and why he's so involved and how much fun it's been for him. So we'll take a short break now, and we'll be talking to Les just after the break. Can we do it? Hey, Liz, thanks for joining us. Good to see you.
Yeah, welcome, Roscoe.
Thanks very much for joining us. Hey, can't wait to get into your experience with TOCA, the Tesla Owners Club of Australia, and find out what drew you to Tesla. But what was your EV aha moment? What really made it for you?
I think probably my first my first passenger experience. I was in Palo Alto, I think. I had gone folk dancing with friends, and I was being driven back to my hotel, and they owned a Tesla X, and I got into one of the captain's seats in the second row, and the doors went yeep down like this, and that was my first experience. And then my second experience was, I think, the same year. I went down to Cupertino, where a friend of mine that I went to university with in Melbourne was the principal research scientist at Apple. And he had a Tesla X as well. And so we went around in that. So that was my first physical experience. And then I began to, when I was going to Macworld all the time from 2008 to onwards, and I was on faculty teaching presentation software called Keynote, and I began to see S's all over San Francisco, and that was my sort of, it's here, you know.
What year are we talking? Yeah.
Probably when they first made their appearance, the S's, around 2012, I think, around then.
That's amazing. And the X's weren't far behind, were they? So
no, very close by.
Yeah.
So I think that was the first ones I'd seen were around about 2012, roaming around San Francisco near Moscone Center where Macworld took place, and then later on when I was able to physically get into one. I think well before we had them in Australia. In fact, I might be wrong there, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
So you were sold then. You had to wait a long time to buy one here, right? What was the first one you bought?
I did. It was it was a spur of the moment decision.
Okay.
I had been driving a Mazda 6 Atenza diesel, and in a color known as Soul Red.
Yeah.
People just love this color, Soul Red, and it was a great car. I owned it from 2013 to 2021, and I just happened to walk into the Tesla showroom, which at the time was in Elstonwick in Victoria.
Yeah.
And I overheard them saying, I had never driven one. I overheard them saying, "Oh, we've got a new shipment coming in, and but they might be very hard to get." And I just said, "Oh, I'll put down a deposit. We'll see what happens." Next thing you know, "Oh, your car's come in."
What year are we talking?
2021, June 2021.
Okay.
And I had previously taken this car to my Mazda dealership not far away, where I bought it years ago, full retail, 52,000, I think it was at the time. And I wanted to trade it in, and I found that the principal there, I said, "Look, why don't I buy your demo car, give it to me cheaper?" And he gave me such an awful trade-in price that I said, I'll just run it into the ground. And then Tesla gave me a trade-in price which was 2.5 times his value.
Yeah.
So I just traded it in on that car that you're now seeing, which is my Tesla Model 3 21 long range. Yeah. And I drove this back to the Mazda dealership with a $100 Visa card, which I then presented to the young woman who'd helped me so much getting turbos and everything repaired. Yeah. I said, "Here's my gift to you." The principal had walked downstairs to see this car. She said, "Here's my $100 voucher. You will never see me again." And it's true. And so I took possession of this car in June 21, and I think I probably joined TOCA a few weeks later in June 21, member 1984.
So yeah, and what attracted you to TOCA? I'll put the website up and let's have a look. Let me have a look at that. Let me get the website for TOCA up while we're talking. There we go. That one there. And what attracted you to TOCA in the first place? Yeah. Well,
something which I believe is going to become part of my life.
Yeah.
I joined a club.
Okay.
I did this with the Macintosh, which I was introduced to in 1988, and I then eventually joined a Macintosh user group, and then I became on the committee, and then I became its president and so forth. The same with my psychological society. I'm a psychologist. I joined that very soon after registering in 1983, then went on committee and then became a secretary and da-da-da-da. So anything I take an interest in that I think is going to become part of my life, I tend to join, observe, and then try and change. It's the nature of the beast. I do this. I've taken up pickleball the last 4 months. I've already joined the Pickleball Association of Victoria, learning the rules, and yeah, that's what I do. That's how I operate.
I know. We contacted you yesterday, and I think you'd just come off the pickleball courts. So
I had.
We'll come back to what piqued my interest about one of the things you said about your career in psychology. We'll come back to that because those of you who don't know Les, he's got a very specialist, or had a very specialist angle. I guess in psychology, and it's a huge help. I didn't realize it existed, but let's just leave it there, and we'll come back to that because I want to stay with TOCA for a minute, but I definitely want to come back and explore that a bit more. So, and the TOCA Club, and they'd started in 2016. Can you take me back to the origins of that?
Well, there weren't that many Tesla official clubs that were sanctioned by Tesla itself. You had to have at least 20 cars registered in Australia or in your country to form that club. The club had to sign, its committee had to sign NDAs because you got advanced knowledge of what Tesla was doing before the community did, and sometimes even before journalists did.
Yeah.
So while there are lots of interest groups around and Facebook pages, there's only this one official Tesla club.
Okay, so let's dig deeper there because not many people might know what you're you're talking
Yeah,
about.
so if you go to Facebook and Reddit and whatever else, there's lots
Yeah.
of interest groups around,
Yeah.
led by one or two people and administrators, but they don't really it's a Facebook meetup.
Yeah.
Not everybody who joins those groups is actually favourable towards Tesla. Some people just join it because they hate it and just want to have a spray every time they get.
True.
This is not what happens when you join a club like Tesla. We're all in it together as a community to learn from each other, and to have special evenings and special presentations and special events.
Okay,
so it's quite different than what Facebook has to offer.
So there's direct communication between the club and Tesla for launches or for other events, is that?
Oh, yes. So in the past, when there was a Cybertruck that came to Australia, we were one of the first to be able to go there and get in and get close to it, got them to do a light show in the Cybertruck. No one had ever done this before, not even the States, got them to do a light show for us.
Yeah.
When the new Highland 3, the current Model 3 was released, we had a special unveiling for us. We kind of missed out a little bit on the YL because that caught everyone kind of a bit by surprise that we were.
They rushed that, didn't they? Yeah.
The States.
That's the most recent. That's the most recent one, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's the extended version. Yeah. So we will have various state groups do get meetings with Tesla distributorships or the local venues where we can have special nights. I'm trying to arrange one with our Victorian State Rep where we can go to the Tesla Repair Centre in Oakland and have a look and ask them, what happens from the moment you go onto your app and say, I'd like to organise a repair, not a service, a repair. What's the process? Show us the machinery. Show us that. So that's what we're trying to organise.
Okay. Yeah, that would be really helpful because it immerses the owner inside the company. And I guess Tesla have been known for not doing much advertising. They talk directly to customers, but you guys, and they haven't been at a lot of events, but you guys have been at just about every event I've ever seen, motor show, community shows, all sorts of shows. Do you do a lot of work in that area?
Yes, so when there's an everything electrical or the motor show, not always is Tesla present.
Yeah.
They're very choosy about which shows they present to. But sometimes what they'll do is they'll give us some demo cars to mix with our own members' cars, and we will attend and we will show how the cars work. We won't drive them around, but you're going to get the user experience, not a salesperson or not a someone who's there to sell you something on commission. That's not how Tesla works, and that's not how we work.
That's the great thing. I've enjoyed engaging with the Tesla Owners Club at those shows. They're talking to owners. Pete up in New South Wales here. I'm Sydney based. You're Melbourne based. We haven't met before tonight, so I haven't been involved with the Victorian Club at all. But some of the work they've done up here, having cars, talking to people tirelessly, hours and hours of talking to people with their own cars on display, just incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
So there's a commitment beyond just Tesla. There's a commitment to an EV transport transformation that we're interested and want to be part of. And the fact that we own Teslas, which have been one of the original parts of it and push the whole thing along. And then the others are kind of standing on the shoulders of Tesla or in the wake, whichever metaphor you want to use. That's all part of the picture. But we're all, just about all of us are deeply committed to this process, the mission, if you like, of innovation in the transport community and seeing more and more electrification of transport.
We were talking before, and we're both verified tech heads. It sounds like from your experience, you've been involved with computers and tech for a long, long time as well, myself included in audio visual. It is probably the most natural thing in the world to the both of us, and often doesn't need explaining because it just makes sense, I guess. Do you find the same thing?
Yes, the easiest way for a Tesla owner to convince people to get a Tesla is to invite people to come for a drive and watch what I do. And just take the mystery out of it. It really is about demystification and demythologizing because there's so much scuttlebutt and talk and this and that. But once people put their bum in the seat, whether it be the driver's seat or the passenger seat, and they watch what you do and they see how you operate the car, there really is a transformation you can hear from them. Like, oh, it's like that, is it? It's not that different from their car, but sufficiently so for their curiosity to be piqued.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it is. It is amazing. It's again, it seems really natural. But and have you? Do you think you've personally sold a lot of Teslas? Mm.
Well, hard to know. Hard to know. I know what I'm doing when it comes to picking up on people's miscommunication about it. I must say that one of the things I do from time to time is hop onto Facebook and Reddit and X and whatever else. And whenever I pick up on a misapplied idea, I gently charge and challenge. It really is good practice for a clinical psychologist to keep cool and chill and push back gently, because that's kind of my day-to-day work.
You're supposed to be. You're supposed to be a professional at that, right? If anyone knows how to do it, you should know how to do it, right? So.
Yes, to be persuasive when people are resistant. Exactly right.
But do you think anyone's gone out and bought a Tesla the day after you've probably taken them for a drive? Do you think? Mm.
No, I don't know. Not that it's being fed back, but we did have an event on Sunday, just past March 22nd, where 75 members in Victoria. We had them all around the country, by the way, but I was in Victoria at a place in Werribee South. We organised 75 people, and it just so there were about 35 to 40 Teslas sitting around the car park. Yeah. Not something you see every day, of course, unless you go out to Tesla. Yeah. And even then, you don't see that many sitting up there. And there were a couple of people there attending just in their own volition, having lunch. And they said, "What is going on here?" They were signed up on the spot. Like, what's going on? Didn't know such a group existed.
That's brilliant. No, that's brilliant. Look, I mean, there's been a lot of ups and downs. And we're going to intermingle your story, the story of your cars, and we're only up to the first Model 3 at the moment. We'll intermingle it with the story of Tesla itself. Do you think there's another brand that you would consider as an EV?
Well, the one that's getting a lot of promotion as an alternative is probably the Zeekr from Geely, the 7 range in its various models.
They say some people are, if your attraction to a car is a large portion of the purchase decision. Right now, I wasn't immediately attracted to Tesla, but there were a lot of other aspects that fit together.
Yes.
And it made me fall in love with it. Right. So.
Yeah. So at the time I bought this 3, there wasn't much out there to compare it to. Yeah. I mean, you had the Nissan Leaf. Well, that was not on my card to have a dance with, and there wasn't much else. And I think
it was early days. It was very early days, and then you were 21, yeah.
Yes.
My first one was 22. By that stage, it was Polestar 2. It was Atto 3. It was Model Y. It was Model 3. But yeah, not much else still, even at that stage, apart from the Nissan Leaf, which was disappearing fast. Not a whole lot else. Maybe a Kona. There was an Ioniq and a Kona, which I probably wasn't aware of as much. But yeah, so it's been Tesla for you, and you're still a committed Tesla fan. But I have seen you on the radio having to support Elon last year. Was that was in your capacity for TOCA, talking about the Musk factor?
Not me. I don't think I've been representing TOCA talking about Elon. Okay. In private conversations, I've been engaging with some members who are very iffy about whether they should stay on board because they're in such disagreement with Elon's shift from left to right. Yeah. That introduces the psychological concept of cognitive dissonance, like how do you hold on to 2 opposing views at the one time?
Yes, without your head exploding. Yeah,
that's right. So that's a 1950s term that still has relevance today. So. Regardless, I've stayed with my Tesla shares, both as an institutional investor and as an individual investor, and I still have a strong belief that I'll hold on to those because I think the company is heading in the right direction for my liking.
No, I'm glad you took that angle, because it is a curious from a scientific perspective, because it is a curious factor. Not many people have been so devoted to a particular brand and the person behind that brand in history, and follow the product so religiously, if I can use that word, in the broadest possible sense, and then had to have this sort of conflict about what happens next. So I don't think about the man himself. I think about the car and the technology, but I know a lot of people were and have been conflicted. So how do you think that's fallen after a year or 6 months in TOCA, after 6 months or so? What's the feeling generally now?
There were lots of stirrings and lots of conversations, and we did lose a few members over it.
Really?
But most have not. Most have stayed because they value the product. They know that there are several dozen Australians working for Tesla, that Australia has a special place for Tesla. And so, one has the ability, I think, to compartmentalize and put things into perspective and value what we're seeing here. We value the car and what it can do, and the foresight that it brings. And don't forget, without that car being present, at least the 2018 Model 3, we're still going to be another 5 years behind.
I agree. And so I know there's a lot of positives on the ledger, and there's some strange negatives. But I agree with you. Without Tesla, we don't have an EV industry. That they are.
I mean, people say to me, "I would never give that man my money." And then you ask them, "But what happens if you get caught somewhere and you need a supercharger? Would you use the supercharger?" Oh yeah, I'd do that. So we've figured out what you are. Now we're just going to figure out what the price is. So you find these little anomalies along the way where people meet principle.
Yeah. But back to the positives of the community and the club. You've talked about the direct connection with Tesla, I think, which no other organization has, or even if they purport to. What else do that do? What sort of things can members expect on a weekly basis or a monthly basis?
So each month around the country, the various states will set up various events. Going on a cruise, not by ship, but a car cruise, a convoy, from place to place, usually with a special mission in mind, is what we do on a monthly basis. I organised one 2 weekends ago with 4 stops. It was a farmer's market stop. So we started in Melton South, and we went off to a place called Balan, to a Country Whims Association, farmer's market there, and then we went off to Trentham in Dalesford, and then we went off to Kyneton for another farmer's market, and ended up in Castlemaine for another market. And we started at 8:30, we finished at 1 o'clock for lunch. I mean, you had 30 cars in convoy. So that's that. Then we also have every month, in between those cruises, what's called a coffee club meetup, where we'll find a coffee spot, sometimes near where a new set of superchargers has just arisen, sometimes not, but somewhere we can park it. We just have a discussion, meet people who've been in the club for a long time, talk to them not just about their cars, but about solar, about battery, about making your house more efficient. With new technologies that may or may not talk to your car, whichever it might be. So there's a lot of knowledge to share around, and then of course we've got different events where we might join with a local council who are having an electrification day, and maybe we'll bring along a couple of Teslas and talk about them, not to promote the brand, but to talk about electrification. And this is the place that cars have. I've been trying to reach out to some of the senior communities, because we think that full self-driving and seniors is a match made in heaven.
Brilliant, absolutely.
So older people can continue to drive rather than thinking, I get to this age and I have to stop. So the idea of mobility and independence, which we think full self-driving can help to bring to the older population, help them be safer, is going to be a very, very important thing going forward.
That's brilliant, and I hadn't thought of that either. That is fantastic. Some of the innovation coming through. And here's you with the FSD. What did you think of the FSD? Did you had a chance to drive it more recently? Just one moment.
I had autopilot, and then I upgraded that to full self-driving. And I think the amount of time I was apprehensive lasted as long as my very first experience in that 2021 when I was apprehensive about one pedal driving.
Yeah,
About
exactly.
10 minutes. About 10 minutes. And then it was like it is with really good technologies, you continue to have aha moments where you say to yourself, it can do that. So I continue to have with AI, with ChatGPT and Claude and all the Perplexity, because I now train my fellow psychologists how to use that in their practices. And I continue to have aha moments. It can do that. It can do that. And that's what happens with FST. It can do that. And we're still on version 13 in Australia. We haven't got to 14.3, which is due to be released in the States in a couple of weeks' time. Hopefully we get that. And that will take it to a whole other level.
And I jumped forward. So that after the first, unfortunately, after the first Model 3, there was a second Model 3, right? There we go.
That's the Y.
That's the Y.
There we go.
I can see. I'm starting to see a theme with the colours here as well, Les.
So that's the ultra red or the stealth red that Tesla made, which is a bit similar to that Mazda Soul Red. Yeah. It sort of depends on where the sun's shining. It takes on a different gleam, different shine. So that's, and I changed my number plate as well.
Did that one go with the car, or did you keep the other one?
I kept the Les 3 one. That was originally I had that for like 15 years beforehand. And the Mazda, if we go back to that one, has the number plate Les 747.
Oh, that's it. Oh, that's cool. We'll get to that. We're almost there because we've dropped too many teasing references, but I'll get there in a second. So this was number 2. So
this is the Highland 3 in December 23. Now, what happened was that's 2.5 years after I bought the 21, my first one. And 2 years into ownership, a year into ownership of the original 3, I came into a little bit of money, and I said to myself, I think I'm going to get myself a Tesla S, not the Plaid. I didn't need it, but the long range, because I really wanted the long range and the extra space, because I've got a big German Shepherd dog. And it doesn't work. It works okay in the back seat of that, but not brilliant. So I put an order in for that, $250 deposit, put an order in for that. And then, of course, what happened to the S and what happened to the X?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And Tesla said, you can have, we'll give you your deposit back, but we'll also give you $2,000 to your next car as long as you order it by October 31.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I said, and then they released the Highland. And it was a big shift from the 21 to the Highland. So, I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So that's where that came along. And I had to sort of, have I shed a tear or two about not ever having an S. And so I ended up with the 3. And as it turns out, I must share with you, Roscoe, it was probably they did me a big favor, because really the S would be much too big for me. And the S was perfect for what it could do.
I was going to say, we've got one on the site that is absolutely pristine condition. I would recommend to you for about $40,000 if you're really keen. Brilliant car, but no, I hear you. But I do want to ask you, what did you think of not having any stalks going from the first generation 3 to the second generation 3?
Oh yeah, that took a little getting used to. But again, with me, I adapt very quickly to these changes. There was, of course, a build-up of big muscle memory that I had to sort of get rid of. But you have to remember that, I drove Japanese cars until I bought the 2021. So the stalk in changing gears, the stalk in indicating was on the right, and the lights and whatever was on the left. Well, now you buy the original 21 Tesla, American, it all goes the other direction. So that was my first big get your head around having to use your left hand and the right hand for gears.
That's right, yeah.
And I actually learned on the tree Ford Falcon.
You adapted okay, yeah?
Yeah, I'm pretty good with that sort of stuff. I know how to do that. For instance, I can now fly, if I choose to the States, hop off a plane after 14 hours, go over to Hertz and Avis, hop into a car, drive it around for a couple of minutes, and my mind is set. When I come back to Australia, pick up the car, I've got to do the same thing. Got to drive around a little bit, and the brain goes, okay, is that what we're doing? And we're back into it. So it takes a little while.
Yeah. And then what was the catalyst for the Model Y in the end? So that
Good question. Very good question. Because each of these changes does require an explanation. Because everyone comes to me and says, Les, you've only had the car for 2 years, 3 years. Why are you changing? Well, life circumstances change. My mother turned 96. She'd had a number of falls, and I had to put her into a nursing home. She's got all her faculties, but she needs a walker. The three, my partner Lily, and the dog, she and the walker cannot get into a 3.
No.
And then they released the Juniper.
Yeah.
So I didn't buy the older Y. They released the Juniper so that, again, the planets align. I sold my Highland to another member of the club. Absolute bargain he got. And as a private sale. And
just on that, I'm going to get a plug in here. So TOCA members list for free on AmazingEV. So it's a great place. The club is a great place to obviously connect and buy and sell through relationships, but we also want to try and facilitate with a free listing for any TOCA member. There's a coupon there. Just want to put that out there to the members that and anyone listening who are on TOCA that they can list on AmazingEV for free anytime. That's how much we want to support and promote inter-club trading between private sellers.
That's right. So that's how the Y came about. And then that was in May last year. And then when the YL was announced, I looked at it and said, that's interesting. Well done, Tesla. That's the right way to go for China with its changing demographics. Yeah. And then they announced it's coming to Australia. Yeah. And I'm starting to scratch my head and say, is there anything here for me?
Yeah.
What happened was that my elderly mother and my partner Lily's elderly stepmother, who's 89, wanted to come on drives with us to go to lunch, plus the dog, plus my mother's walker. That ain't going to work very well in the current Juniper. So the YL with its 6 seats, so partner and me, front seats, mother and mother-in-law in the captain seats, dog in the back.
Dog in the back seat.
Behind you. Perfect.
It could be and the pricing was very good. I think everyone expected it to be a lot more.
Oh yes, excellent pricing.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting to see what Tesla will offer me for its trade-in, which I'll use as my base. But I already have a number of Tesla TOCA members. Yeah. Because they've seen me in the car, they know the car. They've already started to say, I'd like to buy it. Don't leave it without me.
Yeah. No better time. No better time
to use car prices.
Yeah, no better time at the moment to trade it with Tesla, because the prices have just gone crazy. If they can if Tesla can hold their new car prices, they're going to be forced to increase their used car trade-in prices or try looking at selling it privately, because prices have gone up 10 or 15% on the used market. Just absolutely incredible in the last week and a half. I was mentioning it earlier. I've never seen anything like it before. They've gone down and down.
Not in COVID?
Sorry?
Not even in COVID?
This predate. In COVID, we didn't have this sort of market that we've got now where, look, probably 45, 50% of cars on the used market are still Teslas, right? It still represents, as you know, 160,000 sales. It's still sort of half, probably 40% of the overall market, new car market for EVs in Australia. So it represents a very similar, if not disproportional amount on the used market. So
right.
The market just wasn't that mature enough at that stage. There was Tesla Model 3s floating around bits and pieces, but the used market's grown fairly significantly in the last couple of years from nothing, even during COVID. Interesting, again, talking about the catalyst for you selling, change in life, change in circumstances, change in mood, change in interests, changing technology. All those sort of reasons have been what we found as well, as people have moved on, because originally people thought, well, once you bought an EV, you may not sell it. This may not be a used market. People may not sell it for 5 or 7 or 8 years. It could last forever. But yeah, similar sorts of catalysts, similar sorts of ideas and that are motivating you have motivated the used market as well. So lots of stuff happening.
Yeah, I like to think too, if I'm pushed to it, that every time I sell or trade in a Tesla, That's one less ICE car that someone could buy.
No, you have to, and we do. And then it's going to go to a great home. We've done a lot of work with independent battery testers as well, which you may have seen.
Yeah.
Tesla's got their own system as well. But yes, the independent battery tests, some of the tests on some of the Model Ys, we did a Model Y that has done 330,000 Ks, a 22 model. The battery test 86% with no faults, no cell level. Just that's 12, 13 years driving.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, I have to say to you, Oscar, because we talked a little bit about Elon, but while sometimes Elon can be accused of over-promising and under-delivering, the cars do the opposite. The cars, under-promise but over-deliver, just as you talked about the batteries,
Exactly. We found the same thing, and I'm glad you've put your confidence in this brand, in this market, in this technology. I've done the same thing with a business that luckily a few things have fallen into place, that battery longevity and reliability and lack of maintenance, and particularly with Teslas, and drivability. I've done 100,000 Ks myself in my 22 Model Y, and it's fallen into place in that the used market, the cars are better and will last longer than probably anyone ever imagined.
So you and I both have to push back every so often when people say, "Oh, but the batteries won't last. It's going to cost you $20,000 for a new." We've got to challenge those myths and the misinformed. I joked with some people on my TOCA Discord group today, and I put up a picture of one of the Mars rovers.
Yeah,
and I said, they started to go up to Mars in '97. They're EVs, battery-driven EVs.
Exactly.
Yeah, look at the hostile environment, and they're still going.
I know, that's right.
You've got to find your way to push back against some of the mythologies that creep into the conversation.
Yeah, I know, and those are sort of discussions that you're still having on a day-to-day basis. But the number of people that have mentioned to me, I've had more people, I don't know about you, in the last 2 weeks than I have had for a year, mention EVs in a positive, start the conversation in a positive light, rather than a sort of a tentative, maybe they're trying to probably dig themselves out of a hole about reliability or fires or battery. But I've had more people come to me starting the conversation in a positive way. What are you here in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah. So what's interesting is that after all the proselytizing and the going to events, whatever else, look at what's pushed along people's awareness of what EVs have to offer. Exactly. The same old thing that happens when people go to vote, they hit pocket.
Exactly. Money. It comes down to money. But let's just spend briefly a bit of time while we've still got you on your business and what you've been doing. Because again, I'll let you explain it because I'm fascinated by this.
Oh, okay. Well, you can see behind me, this is Sydney Airport. This is a video recorded from the Qantas Club when I happened to be there waiting between flights. So this is when I work with patients who have a fear of flying or fear of anything to do with transport, which could be elevators, it could be driving, it could be bridges and tunnels. They often go together, by the way.
Okay.
And so that is kind of been my specialty, from having worked with severe PTSD and victims of homicide and victims of family assault and so forth. When I first started out, I kind of got thrown into the deep end. And as I moved through the progression of my career, I decided to focus on things that I'm passionate about. And I'm passionate about helping people make the biggest changes that they can do to their quality of life in the shortest possible time. And people make some big changes when they can travel with their family, go and see places, overcome their fears. I've had people who've come to see me for overcoming fear of flying and then revealed to me a month later that after a 20-year absence, they'd gone back to visit their dentist, having suffered a dental phobia, which they didn't discuss with me.
Yeah. Even
when I asked, but they found that the tools that they learned to overcome something like flying, they were able to apply to dental work or to elevators, wherever it might be. So for me, it's very satisfying work. I'm kind of, even though I could have retired years ago, I'm kind of loath to not continue this work.
Yeah.
Because it's very satisfying work. And it uses a lot of great technologies. Like I've been using telehealth, like you and I are talking since COVID. I don't see people face to face at all.
Exactly. And you can help so many people. I knew a guy who suffered from a fear of flying, and I was fairly dismissive. For him, it was real, and I didn't know there were people like yourself in profession that you could get specific professional help. And again,
Yes.
take a look at Les's website and his YouTube channel. We'll put some links below, and just take a look at some of the chats that he does there, because one of the most fascinating charts I saw that you'd done and put up was the chart where, and it showed the degrees of fear for someone, not a typical person, but someone who might have a fear of flying. But all the key points were all the points leading up to actually takeoff. There were about 7 or 8 touch points leading up to takeoff, whereas I thought it was getting on the plane and flying. So that caused more anxiety than anything else. So I was fascinated with that. But more on that, and I really appreciate you sharing that, Les, because that is fascinating. We could go on all night. But back to TOCA, and we'll wrap up on TOCA. So if people are interested in TOCA, can you tell us a bit more about the details of joining, where we can find them?
Sure. The easiest will be at the teslaowners.org.au website. You can log in and sign up for membership. It's $25. You don't have to own a Tesla. If you're interested in Teslas, you can come along to events and meetings, and maybe ring up or get in touch with one of the committee members and say, I'd like to come on on a drive, one of the cruises. Can someone help me do that? And we can facilitate that, and just learn about what these cars are all about from users, people who have these in their possession day in, day out, and learn the ins and outs of how these cars operate and the operating expenses. How much money am I likely to save in fuel and servicing over the lifetime of this car? It's going to be something like $2,500 a year. That's the last numbers I saw being offered. Yeah, so that's what they can do. Just join up here. There's an app you can download called Member Jungle, which was written by member number 1, and that goes onto your smartphone device, and that's where you're updated with events around the country.
Well, absolutely brilliant, because amazing organization. I didn't realize you were so close to Tesla myself. Great insights about what you've owned, where you're going next. And as a TOCA member, on behalf of TOCA members, thanks for everything you do, because it just seems that like TOCA members give, and no doubt the executive for a nonprofit organization is just giving and giving as part of this organization as well. So thanks very much for joining me tonight. We're celebrating 10 years, and it's going to be another 10 easily. There's no doubt about that. What's your prediction?
Thank you. So too.
Thanks, Les. Good to see you, and good night for now. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks so much too. Bye-bye.
That was Les Posen, TOCA Vice President nationally, joining us from Melbourne. Amazing organisation, brilliant club. There's other car clubs, there's Facebook groups, but you can see what they do for people. There was a lot of events around the country last weekend, but they're coming up. Coffee meetings, drive, cruises, all sorts of interesting shows. I also do a lot of education stuff online as well. So just keep an eye out for that if you're a Tesla owner. If you didn't like Tesla, you're in the wrong place tonight, but wanted to just celebrate the Tesla Owners Club 10th birthday this week, and next week we'll be back into more deals, data and discovery on AmazingEV. And thanks for joining us this week. Thanks to all those. Joseph, good to see you. Hal 9000, PC, thanks very much. Mrs. Amazing, thanks for your comments. We've got a few more listeners tonight. We're back on track. Really good to see everybody, and we'll take you out with our cruising of AmazingEV. There's a few for sale out there at the moment, so you better get them. They're going fast. Can we do it?